Hey there. Okay, so I'm back again. Aren't you lucky? So here I have two ornaments, and these are adorned with my new pattern, and it's Christmas plaid inspired. And so I hope you're going to like this one. So I've done it with a red ball and a green ball, and today we're going to do it with the gold ball. One of the things that you may notice is that a little bit on the ornament that the green disappears on the green ball and the red disappears on the red ball. But when you're up close to them, and you can actually see the bead colors. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and I hope you enjoy this one. And let's get going. So our supplies are a glass ornament, and this is about 6.2 centimeters for the diameter, which is the width across here. And something important to note, that because of the pattern, we need to have an even number of points coming off of the center, and there's 8 points on this one. If you determine that when you buy your ornament, if this top part is bigger than what the 8 points can accommodate for, and you need to add sections, go ahead and add them in counts of 2. You need to keep it even because of the pattern, the way it works out. If you add an odd number, it will not work. It's not going to work out. So if you have to add more sections to accommodate for a larger cap on your ornament, decrease the size of the bugle bead. Get a smaller bugle bead so you could add more sections. That's my advice on that one. And the reason being is because if you add 2, it may be of this size bugle bead, it may be actually make your collar way too big, and it would just look strange on your ornament. So I would go try to find a shorter bugle bead to be able to add 2 sections as opposed to 1. Doing 1 will mess up your pattern. So let me know if you have questions on that, and we'll get that sorted out. And then my bugle beads that I'm using, these are actually from my stash, so I've had these for an awful long time. And these are 5mm gold tone glass bugle beads, and we're going to be roughly using about 24 of those. And then I've got these lovely, these are 11 seed beads, and they're called Christmas Green. I just love these. These are so pretty. They're just the perfect tone of green for this ornament. I got these at Shipwreck Beads up in Washington near Olympia. They have a website. You should be able to Google them. Then we're also going to be using a red bead. This one is called Ruby. Transparent Ruby. It's 11 seed bead again, and this is a Miyuki. And we're also going to be using this Silver Line Gold. It's 11 seed bead, and it's by Miyuki. So it's a translucent gold bead with silver lining. So it's really pretty. It gives the right amount of shine. All right, and I'm also going to be using the waxed beading thread. I just really like it. I like the way it works in the hand that I get with it, the way it just allows the beads to drape where they need to drape. All right, for tools, we'll be needing beading needle, which is a number 10, a bead stop. I love these things. Also a ruler and my handy scissors. I'll also be using a dish for putting my beads in. And the weirdest thing I'll be using today is this is a roll of waxed linen, but it also makes a perfect stand for setting the ornament on. So what I'm going to start with the bead stop, just going to clip it on about 6 inches or so from the tail of the thread, and that's just to help me when I'm having to bury the tail later on. I have enough of the thread to get a hold of. So I'm just going to start out with my bugle beads, and I always put my finger on the end of the bottle when I'm going to dump them out. That way I can control how fast they're coming out. It's just, for me, a little simpler that way. That way, if you're like pouring out a tube, if you don't put your finger on the end and then let it out gradually, you could wind up with beads going all over the place. Okay, so basically what we're going to start is we're going to start with 8 beads. So it's going to be 8 bugle beads and 8 seed beads. All right, so there's our 8 bugle beads and seed beads, and we're just going to come back around to the start and come back through the whole strand again with the thread, because we're making a circle. We're making the initial circle for the collar of the ornament. And the biggest challenge here is as you're threading back through your beads that you started with, that you don't catch your thread, because that's just going to cause a whole nother problem. And again, as you're pulling your thread through, you're wanting to keep an eye on it as it's coming, and try not to pull your bead stop off as it's coming through, to make sure you're not getting your thread tangled up. And I'm going to take the bead stop off now, because what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to tie a knot. So I'm adjusting my thread so my tail is still about 6 inches long, and I'm pulling it just so I can bring these beads closer. You don't want to get it super tight or excessively close. You're going to want to leave a little bit of slack in this gap, because what you'll be needing to do is, as you add your next layer, next row of beads, so I've done a surgeon's knot here. I'm just gonna pull that tight. What you're going to do is, as you add your layers, you need to have a little bit of slack from the prior row, so there's room to actually access these seed beads for building up your next layer. All right. And something I like to do is I like to get away from my knot a little bit before I start doing the next row. So I just go a couple of bugle beads and seed beads over. And it's really important to make sure you're keeping your thread from tangling or forming little loops, which will form weird knots on you if you're not careful. So it's at this point, all right, so I always want to come out the left side of the seed bead for adding the next row. And for this one, also another thing to remember is that when you're looking at your bugle beads, you're going to want to make sure that if you see one in your stash that has a that's broken, it's got a really shattered tip on it, you're just going to want to set that one aside and throw it away. So you're going to want to make sure that as you're threading your bugle beads, that you've made sure that it doesn't have a really sharp, jagged edge on it, because that actually will wear on your thread as you go. And it would help if I didn't drop my needle and drop my beads. All right, so you're coming out of one seed bead and you're going back through the next seed bead over. And I always work to the left because I'm right-handed. And if you're left-handed and you want to work to the right, go for it. There's no rules on that. You just go the direction that is most comfortable for you. So what I'll be adding is adding these triangles to each one of the primary color sets. So I'll be adding another bugle bead, seed bead, bugle bead combination. Okay, and as I go, I'm pulling to keep so there's not a lot of slack left in the pieces, the sections, but I do want to make sure that my seed bead is going to be in a position to where I'll be able to thread through it for the next row. All right, so I'm just tying a knot after that, the last bead. So I went through this bead to attach the last section, and I just do a simple overhand knot at the end of it just to secure the section. And I'll do that at the end of each one of my rows. So I'm going to go down through the bugle bead right where I tied off on the knot. And I'm going to go through the bugle bead and the seed bead. And now I'm ready for the third row. What I'm going to do for right now is I'm finished with the bugle beads, so I'm going to go ahead and put them away. All right, so now we see how our collar fits on our ornament just perfectly. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start building up our rows of seed beads. This next one, we're going to have, for each section, we're going to have 3 color, 1 gold, 1 color, 1 gold, 3 color. And the color will be either the green or the red, and they're going to be alternating. So the first section, we'll start out with the green. So do the 3 greens, a gold, a green, a gold, and then 3 greens. So we've got 3 greens, a gold, a green, a gold, and 3 greens. And that's going to be our this is row 3. So it's going to be what row 3 is, going all the way around the collar. And we're going to start out with green, and then the next section is going to be with the red, and then we'll go do green and then red. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take our needle and go through the seed bead from the next point over, and that's going to start us off on our pattern. And always pull your thread through carefully so as to keep track of and not letting it get tangled. All right, and now our next section is going to be with the red. So it's going to be 3 of the reds, gold, red, gold, and now 3 red again. All right, and that's what we're going to be doing, is coming around, alternating the sections between the red and the green. And as we go down the piece, you'll see how this alternating and the fact that we're using even numbers is going to start creating the spiral effect that you'll see with the red. As we add the rows, that it's going to look like it's going in a spiral, and that helps with giving it that impression of a Christmas plaid. It's not an exact interpretation of a Christmas plaid, it's the impression of a Christmas plaid. The the Christmas plaid is actually my favorite pattern on the manufactured ornaments that I have in my personal ornament stash. My Christmas plaids are my favorites, and I was trying to think of how can I translate that into a beaded ornament, and this is what I came up with. So this is my pattern. Alright, so now we're going to continue, and we'll probably fast forward through this section for you so you don't have to watch me go in slow motion. Alright, so now that you see that we've gone all the way around, and the reason why you could see the obvious reason why it needs to be an even number, so you wind up with every other one the other color as you go, and it's really important. That's why it's important that the count of sections has to be an even number. If you had an odd number, you'd wind up with two colors of the same next to each other, and then the pattern just won't work out. So we've gone through this bead after putting on this last section here, and I'm pulling it tight to make sure I have pulled out most of the slack. There's still a little bit of slack in here, and that's okay because we're going to need a little bit of slack for the next row, as we're going to be the center bead on each section is going to be where the next row of beads hang off of. So now I'm actually going to do another knot here where I've come through with the thread just to finish off the row. What this does is it helps that in the event that something happens to your ornament and the threads break or somebody accidentally cuts it, that the row that the thread broke in will it'll come apart. There's no other way to say it. It will come apart, but all the rows of the beads above and below it will still be intact. So you would be able to mend your ornament by just replacing the row that came off, and you're literally sewing the two sections back together. And that's actually a really good reason for tying that knot right there, because it helps preserve the sections above and below any place where there could be a break. Now if the ornament breaks, yeah, you're done. You can't exactly slip another glass ornament in between back in the beads. But if your thread breaks, there is a way to salvage. So basically, I came down through the three green beads and through the gold, and I came out the center green bead right here. And this is where this center bead, the color bead between the two gold beads, is where we'll be attaching the next row all the way around. So here's the key. I came out of green, so the first color for the next row is going to be red. Whatever bead you come out of here, you're going to go to the opposite color for the next section. So now we're going to be going, because we want to actually create a bit of the ribbon effect that they usually have in the Christmas plaid. There's usually a strand of gold ribbon in it, and to help create that effect here, we're going to be doing a gold bead, 4 of the color beads, another gold, another color, another gold, 4 colors, and a gold for this next row. So this is the next sequence. So it's going to be gold, 4 of the color, gold, color, gold, 4 of the color, and gold. And so whatever the color you come out of, the beads you'll be attaching are the opposite color. So now we came out of the green, going into the red. There we go. Going through the red bead in the center of the next section. I just wrapped my thread around my needle. There we go. And again, be careful in pulling your thread through, because we're still at the beginning, so we have a lot of thread here to be pulling through, and you just want to take your time and not let it create loops and cause knots in your thread for you. You see how that's just laying against the ornaments so nicely. So again, we came out of red, so our next color is going to be the green. So we're going to have the 1 gold and 4 of the greens, and we're going to do the gold, green, gold sequence in the middle, and 4 greens and a gold. So again, gold, 4 colors, gold, colored gold, 4 colors, gold. And since we're coming out of the red, we're going green, and then we're going to go into the green in the next section. And again, we're going through that center bead. And again, just being careful to pull your thread through gently. And I like to roll the beads a little bit to get them to fall in line, basically, to start forming the pattern. And you could see here how the intersection of the 4 beads on either side of the center bead is starting to create that little pattern. And you'll have this little pattern throughout the ornament at each one of the intersections with that. It's like a little gold circle around that colored bead. So now we've come out of the green, so we're going to go with the red. So it's the 4, the gold, the 4 color, the gold, color, gold, and then 4 of the color again, which for this section it's red, and finish off with the gold. All right, so now we've completed that row, and again I'm going to tie my knot here. And it's okay if you see a little bit of the extra thread, because once you thread this down, run your needle down into the beads to position it for the next row, because you're going to go through the gold, the 4 colors, the 1 gold, and the color, and coming out the tip. That knot is going to be hidden in the beads, and you won't see it. All right, this is it's at this point when I want to take the time to deal with this little tail right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it up through, and I'm actually going to use a large eye needle, just because it's easier to capture that thread end with one of these needles than to try to take the time to thread it through the small eye of a regular needle. Come on, there we go. So it's just easier to capture the thread in there, and I don't have to worry about this needle chewing up the thread, because it's only going to be on here for a short bit of time. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run it back through at least 3 of the bugle beads. It's already been tied, so the knot's already tied on it. So what I'm just embedding the tail into the neck. And actually, I could keep going to go all the way close to back around to where I came out at, and what that extra bit of thread is going to do is just give a little bit more strength on the neck. It's not actually necessary to go all the way back through because it's already doubled. Your thread around this neck section is already doubled, and what this is doing is just giving it a bit of a triple layer, just getting your needle into the beads. Alright, I think a couple more and I'll have given it that third layer of thread, even though at the end of this I'm not going to tie another knot. I'm just using up the thread tail that I have here, just taking it through and giving myself an additional layer of thread going around the neck of the ornament. Now that we've gotten that dealt with, so now we're on to the next row, and for this one it's going to be similar to the previous row. So instead of the 4 beads, we're going to have the 5 beads, color beads. And again, so we came out of red, so our next color is going to be the green. So it's going to be gold and 5 greens, and then the gold, green, gold, and then 5 greens and the gold. So it starts with the gold, get the 5 colors, the gold color gold, 5 more colors, and then the gold. And you're coming out of red, so your green is your next color, and then we're going to go through the center bead here on the next loop to the left. So we're back around to where we started. What I like to do is, now that I'm getting sections where the beads are a little bit, there's more beads on the strands, I like to go around and actually give the thread a bit of a tug, getting closer to where I've come out at, to get a little bit of the excess slack out of things, so it's not too loose. We want a little bit of movement, but we don't want excessive loose threads. And I'm going to tie off a knot again. So we're coming out of green again, and now we're going to go to red. So on this row, we're going to actually spice it up a bit. Instead of just going solid, instead of just going gold, solid color, gold, color, gold, solid color, gold, this is where we actually start getting in an extra bit of gold in the middle of our strand. So we're going to be we're doing red this time. So it's going to be gold, 3 color. So it's going to be 3 reds, gold, 2 reds, the gold, red, gold. And now we're to the center. So we're going out the other side of this pattern. So now it's 2 reds and a gold, and then 3 reds and a gold. Okay, so it's gold, 3 colors, gold, 2 colors, gold color, gold, 2 colors, gold, 3 colors, gold. And you probably have noticed that on each round, the beads on either side of the center, we're adding 1 bead. So here we went from 3 to 4 to 5, and now it's actually, we're up to 6 beads in between the center and the end. But instead of adding another color, I used gold for that 6th bead. So that's actually part of the key to the expanse on the bead count. Okay, so now we've completed that row, and again I'm just giving things a bit of a tug coming around to pull the slack closer to where I'm at right here. just to make sure that things are snug but not excessively tight. That way I can tie the knot and it's not going to be droopy. Again, I'm holding my thread close to where I'm doing the knot, so when it comes up and ties the knot, it's hidden within the beads. Now I'm going to thread my needle back down through the row we just finished, so I can come out at this point, always through the center bead. And we're coming out of the red, so our next color is going to be the green. So for this next row, so that's the pattern. So it's gold, 4 colors, gold, 2 colors, gold color gold, 2 colors, gold, 4 colors, gold. And since we finished off on, we came out on red, our color is going to be green. And now we're going to go through the center bead of the next loop to the left. Okay, so now that we've completed that row, I'm coming back down through the beads to the center bead on this loop to start the next row. There we go, coming out the center. All right, so now we're actually on the next 3 rows are going to be numbers 8, 9, and 10, and they're all 3 going to be the same. So we're going to go, so we're coming out of green, so we're going to start with red. All right, so here I have completed rows 8, 9, and 10. So I'm stepping down to the next row, coming out the center bead, so we could start doing our next row, which is going to be row number 11. So at this point we start getting smaller because we're accommodating for the decrease in the roundness of our ornament, so we can make sure that we're still going to be fitting our ornament. But you can see how these 3 rows that are the same, each section in these 3 rows are the same size to accommodate for this middle part of our ornament. So row 11 is going to be the same as row 7. So now we're going to go back up, repeating what's in row 7 for row 11. So we came out of the red, so we're going to do green. All right, so now I've completed the row, and I've tied out the knot, and I've come through for the step down to the next row. So now we are at row 12, and we're going to repeat what we did on row 6. And since we came out of the green, we're going to do red. So it's gold, 3 reds, gold, 2 reds, gold, 1 red, gold, 2 reds, gold, 3 reds, gold. All right. And so that's how the sequence is going to be for this entire row. So it's going to be 3, 2, 1, 2, 3 for the colors for each segment. So this one is red, the next segment will be green, and we will repeat every other one after that. All right, so again, we've completed the row, pulled out the slack, tied the knot, and now we're stepping down to the next row. So now we're going to be on to row 13. And so for row 13, we're going to repeat what we did up at row 5, which is actually, we're getting rid of the in-between gold bead. We're going back to just solid between the golds. So we're coming out of red, so we're going to start with green. Okay, so we've pulled the slack out. We've got all of our beads on, and we're finishing off the row with a knot. Trying not to wrap the thread around the whole entire ball. Okay, now we're stepping down again. So I'm just doing a bit of a squeeze to see how we're doing on our beads, and I'm trying to assess, do I want to step down the number of beads in the rows? And I think I'm going to continue to do that. So now we're going to be on row 14. So we're going to repeat our sequence from row 4, so we came out of red, so we're going to start with green. So that's our sequence for this row. It's going to be the gold, 4 colors, gold color, gold, 4 colors, gold. Okay, so now we're going to be doing, this is our row 15. And so we came out of green, so we're going to start with red. This is going to be 1 gold, and you probably guessed it, 3 reds, and then the gold, red, gold combination for the center, and 3 reds again, and finish off with a gold. All right, so again, we're completing our row. So I'm gonna hold my thread and go back and see if there's any slack that I can pull out of the prior sections. And now I'm going to tie my knot and step down again. All right, so as you can see, we're really close to being to the end, because when we pull everything up tight together, it's going to be coming together really nicely. So I'm actually going to just balance my ornament here upside down. So now I need to make the decision. So I've gone from 3, and since we're getting really close, I think I can skip the 2 sequence and just go to the 1 sequence like I did on the green ornament. Sometimes you need to have the extra row where you're going to go gold 2, gold color, gold 2, gold, but for this ornament itself, I can skip the 2 and go straight to the 1. And so we've come out of red, so then we're going to go to green. So it's just going to be gold, green, and that's the outer part, and then we're going to do our center, which is the gold, green, gold, and then we're going to do the outer section, which is the gold and the green. So it's basically 4 golds and 3 greens in alternating, and that's how you're going to get your sequence. All right, so here's the last section of that row, and again we're going to pull it tight to get out all the excess slack. And then again step down through the center bead for the final row. So this final row is just going to be 3 beads in each section. So we came out of green, so we're going to go red. So it's just going to be gold, red, gold. Okay, so that was actually our last row, and I'm pulling it really tight. And I'm going to tie a knot, and then we're going to go ahead and finish this. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back around this entire last row a second time with my thread, just to make sure it's nice and strong and secure. And to make sure I'm coming back to where I started from, I'm going to leave this loop hanging out there so I don't lose my place. And what this going around the second time will help do is, if there is any remaining slack that I want to definitely get pulled out of this final row, I can do it again. Now that I'm coming back to where I started at, I can go ahead and pull the rest of that loop out because it was there just to mark my spot. So now that I'm back to where I started from, don't need the loop there anymore. Okay, so now I'm going to pull it tight again, and this time I'm hoping that I don't let the slack back in once I've tied my knot. So I'm going to tie the knot again. And this is a small space that I'm dealing with, trying to keep my thumb on the thread and pull at the same time. And there, that worked. So yay. Got the slack out, so now I am gonna go back through here, but that's just so I can come up this direction, just to embed my tail into the beads up above. So I'm only going to go up a couple of rows, and then I'm going to snip off my thread. So there it is. We have our Christmas plaid inspired ornament in the gold and the red and the green. I think this makes a really nice trio. And so I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you actually make this ornament. Please, send me pictures of how your ornaments come out. If you have any questions, let me know. And please subscribe to my channel and like this video. All right, thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.